Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm looking at the book The First Time, True Tales of Virginity Lost and Found, including my own, by Kate Munro. A friend of mine gave this book to me. Thank you, Amelia. And I have to say that the stories she recounts in here of the people she interviewed were interesting and important, and I think that anyone interested in human sexuality and sociology will find those stories of how people framed the tale of their sexual debut into the world fascinating, because I did. But I have a real bone to pick with the author of this. The concept of virginity is just that. It's a concept. It's a social construct. It's a myth. It doesn't exist. Virginity is not something that has any real definition in the world. It is an ephemeral thing that humans invented. And the concept of virginity loss is inherently toxic and sex negative. It is one of the most fundamental weapons of social conservatism that has been used against women and men, but mostly women. Now, the author understands the importance of language. She does. She really does. And one of the first people she quotes in this is a woman that says, why are we allowing 5th century religious concepts to frame this conversation? So there's no way the author can say that she wasn't fully aware of how toxic the concept of virginity loss is. Absolutely no way she can skip around that. It's right there in front of her. And yet she keeps beating the social conservative drum of virginity loss hundreds of times inside this book, hammering it home harder and harder. And every time she recounts the fact that, much to her amazement, men still have problems and issues with virginity. Their concerns about not losing theirs means they're not a man, or failing to please their partner means they're not a man, or all these other things, and the anxieties that men have about virginity, as opposed to the other types of anxieties that women have about virginity. And every single answer to every single thing she talks about that are plaguing men is toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. And she never discusses it. It's like it doesn't exist. She actually discussed, this book was printed in 2011, she discussed the concept that we are living in 2011, in her opinion, in a post-feminist world. Bullshit! It's 2017. We're not in a post-feminist world. If I live to be 1,000, I doubt we'll be in a post-feminist world. Not at the rate we're moving forward. It's like glaciers in a world without global warming. In my opinion, the author did not do due diligence. Failed in her journalistic integrity. I mean, she talks about learning from other works on this topic. And yet, what did she learn? Did she never understand any of the foundations of feminism? And I'm a guy, and I can guarantee you I don't understand them all. But I understand more of them than she seems to. She fails her interview subjects. She fails us, the reader. Absolutely misses the point. And she does discuss in detail about the horrible impact women can go through or suffer if they are viewed socially as having lost their virginity. Women die because of this. People have been murdered because someone thought that because they were not a virgin, again, a mythological thing that does not exist, Because they weren't a virgin, that brought shame upon their family, sometimes even their whole community. Remember, the idea of virginity is about ownership. It's about buying and trading women like livestock. And all the controversy and bullshit about hymens. Hymens are not barriers that completely seal off a woman's vagina. If that actually happens, it's a very serious medical problem. Hymens exist, but they are not solid. They are often gone long before a woman becomes sexually active. And what does that even mean for a lesbian? A classic gold star lesbian who's never had penetrative sex with a man. Virginity doesn't have any definition in that case. And what does it mean for an asexual person? And she interviews one. The concept of virginity has no meaning for an asexual person. None. It's like trying to discuss the aerodynamics of a fish. It's a hydrodynamic animal. It's not an aerodynamic animal. You can't apply those things. It's very frustrating. And what does it mean for a man who never has penetrative sex with another man? How does that define virginity? Again, the mythological concept that is toxic. Now, having said all that, I was amazed to discover that I still carry on vestigial aspects of this, echoes of what virginity loss means. I thought I'd expunged them all. But when she was discussing a man who said that he felt he had lost his virginity when he had anal sex with a particular person, it suddenly occurred to me that in my head, is the definition of a man losing their virginity. Having anal sex with another man. And yet, anal play itself with hands or toys, in my head, isn't losing one's virginity. So I was still buying in to that toxic concept, even though I didn't think I had that left in me. And I did. This kind of thing is insidious, and rooting it out is hard. And this book just hammers it home harder. Like I said, I feel it does a disservice to the reader. And I'm afraid of all the people that read this and don't understand what the author is missing. I liked her writing style. Again, I think the content of the interviews she did and her own personal story were all very important. Now, the stories themselves, many of them were young people discovering that, what they did or didn't want to do sexually, and their experiences. And they were interesting, but they weren't revolutionary, whatever. But a couple of the cases were rape. And one woman's first sexual experience was sexual assault at the hand of her doctor. And they're heartbreaking. So be prepared for that. So, mixed thoughts on this one. In the graphic on the cover does not help. Because that right there is playing right in to that toxic meme.